First they rise, then they merchandise. Here's your spooky spot on the Super 7 Return of the Living Dead ReAction zombie figures. This isn't just a ReAction figure, it's a way of life. The 3.75-inch scale articulated Return of the Living Dead ReAction figure of zombie suicide and zombie trash is inspired by the movie poster for the 1985 cult classic film and features the undead would-be brain eater with removable intestines accessory and missing arm. Whether you're a collector of all things zombie or a fan of the cult classic film, a Return of the Living Dead ReAction figure of zombie suicide and trash will give your collection an unkillable dose of punk rock attitude. I better hurry and start looking at these dead before they start to decay. Before we get a closer look at the 1985 poster ReAction zombies from Return of the Living Dead, if I can, I'd like to send out a big ghoulish thank you to the folks over at Super7 that did provide this sample we could have a look at. Both Trash and Suicide are available as of right now, whether you are lucky enough to find the ReAction figures in the wild, or if instead you wanted to check out online, they are available there as well. I'm going to grab the tape measure and see how tall the figures stand, and just for the sake that they are standing about the same size, I'm only really going to measure Suicide. Suicide and Trash actually are about 3 1/4 inches in height, or the figures are going to be about 9 centimeters tall. And during this all spooky season, we did in fact look at a couple of other ReAction figures, that being the Treehouse of Horror Simpsons figures. So here's what Suicide and Trash look like with Grim Reaper Homer. Here's what they look like as well with Kang as Bob Dole. And here's also what they look like with skinned upside down, inside out Bart. I did also want to mention with Bart that in his review, I actually left the cane still in the packaging. Many astute viewers may have already noticed that the cane has been retrieved and is going back to its rightful owner. Now, the Simpsons figures aren't likely ones you're going to be displaying along with the zombies. Unless you're into really collecting the ReAction figures as a whole, Super 7's turning out some really amazing releases here. Now, unlike the Treehouse of Horror Simpsons ReAction figures where I so willy-nilly ripped open the packaging, my plan really the whole time was to have them loose and on display. I was, though, more carefully to cut the packaging here on the zombies, although unfortunately Trash, I did a little bit rougher of a job cutting the bottom of it. My plan with really both of these is to eventually be putting them back into the plastic prison, simply just because the packaging looks too good. And again, referencing to the 1985 poster for Return of the Living Dead, not ones I would really like to be throwing away in the recycling. Packaging-wise, while maybe not necessarily looking like Linnea Quigley, you can see that there's Trash featured on the front, and then we've already looked at there's Suicide as well. But on the back of the packaging, too, it does feature the 2 characters of zombies. Neither one, as far as I know, do actually glow in the dark. I've actually tried to glow these in the dark, and they're just basically the green plastic. But really some nice, cool detailing on the back. All the more reason why I would definitely like to hold on to these and not throw them away. Now, the figures do come included with accessories. For one reason or another, I actually left the one accessory off to the side. Suicide comes included with his little organs hanging out. Oh, isn't that adorable? Sculpted all well here in a gory red plastic. They've sculpted, actually, surprisingly, the back of it just as much as they sculpted the front. And you can then take this and fit this inside of the cavity of Suicide. It's a little harder, honestly, because you have to kind of get it around the jacket. I find it helps just kind of tuck it on one side. And then when you feel like you got it all the way in there, you can kind of then push the guts in the other way. You can kind of as well slide them up from the bottom, but it never really seems like the organs sit properly in place. Again, you kind of have to move them around until you find that sweet, delicious spot. And that's what the organs look like inside the cavity of Suicide. Both the figures, I did say they had accessories. I mean, really, Suicide is the only one that comes included with accessories. Actually, you couldn't even say that Trash comes with too many accessories as she's still wearing her clothing. Anyways, the figures themselves, again, are about the same size. They're going to all still retain the same articulation points, only in the head, only in the shoulders, and only in the legs. The detail for these are really fantastic. I always was wondering if we ever were going to get a ReAction line of zombies from Return of the Living Dead, and was a surprise to see that Super 7 decided not only just to release the zombies, but also ones more again to the 1985 poster. They don't really so much look like this in the actual movie, but the fact that we actually have like little representations look really fantastic. Closely looking first at Suicide, One thing I really like is the way they've sculpted the bottom of the jaw there. It does almost in a way look like he's got himself a beard, a nose cavity, one only eye on the one side, completely void on the other. A mohawk, which I would have to really question how a zombie could still retain a mohawk, but to be also fair, Thrash still manages to have her hair. This one also does have a leather jacket with chains adorned on the front. It's nicely painted, and even on the back as well, they took as much time to paint the silver there as well. I like that they've also added a lot of red here. The red with the blood as much as they have in the movie. The thing I don't really as much like about the Return of the Living Dead zombies is the fact that they're almost impossible to kill, whereas normal zombies you could just blow away their brains and then call it a day. Those zombies were much more resilient in the Return of the Living Dead and the follow-up sequel, which basically just plays out like the original first Return of the Living Dead. But again, like the details are really nicely done here. You got the rib cage there happening, as well as the very lean looking arms. And again, all this cool looking blood all over the hands and on the top of the legs there as well. Now again, there's no articulation here at all other than the already mentioned head sculpt. So the head is going to rotate all the way around. The arms are going to rotate also as well. And the legs are about the only other thing that's going to rotate back and forth on the figures. They do have really the means on the bottoms of their feet to attach onto a display stand, but neither one of these figures actually come included with display stands. So that's Suicide, putting him down and probably the more favorite of everyone. Here's what Thrash looks like. Thrash, though, sculpted not quite the same kind of hairstyle that she would have had in the movie. It's all sort of spikier here, like more of a cactus. But I like the decay that they've added all across her body. She's got these little areas where the skin has just started to decay away. And the head sculpt on this, again, is fantastic. She has, this time around, actually 2 eyes instead of just the one. Nicely painted as well, with the additional pupil painted in red. And again, all this additional brown that they've added to the top really does make it the zombie shine. Now, she is missing an arm, unfortunately. Where the whereabouts of the arm are right now are unknown. But again, really nice looking details. She seems to have, again, like some decay there on the tops of her shoulders. All the midriff area there, just below her belly top, as you can see, it's just worn away. And again, like she has basic, more simple articulation. It seems to be actually, when you're looking at the two figures, that the legs are probably going to be shared exactly the same. I don't think there's anything really different necessarily between Suicide and Thrash, but that's fine. I obviously, we all sort of look the same underneath. Man, that's a deep thought. We all kind of look the same really underneath anyways. Makes no sense really for them to use brand new sculpts for at least Trash's body. Again, the articulation here on Thrash is going to be exactly the same. So the head's going to rotate all the way around. You can take those arms and rotate them, yes, all the way around as well. And the legs do move forward and back also. Nice overall little figures. For me, at least, I'm going to be displaying these not, in fact, loose, like the earlier looked at Simpsons, but rather instead I'm going to be bringing back in the packaging, which I really did think I was going to be cutting a little more carefully. I was a little more haphazardly cutting it when it came to Trash's packaging, but ultimately, though, the zombies are not going to be going back in the ground where they really should belong, but rather instead they're going to be going inside of the plastic tray here. Nice looking figures, though, from Super7. I mean, I would have really loved these could be a little bit taller, but the idea that we even got ourselves zombies, and more importantly, that we got ourselves zombies from the 1985 poster than rather the way they actually look in the movie. Nice touch on the part of Super7. On one end, I do wish that Super7 could have made more collector-friendly packaging for all their ReAction line of figures. That could then mean if you as a collector wanted to take them out from time to time, put them on the shelf, or just move around their limited articulation points, you could then put them back in the packaging, no harm, no foul. I know, though, the charm that goes along with the ReAction figures is the fact that they're supposed to look like retro toy lines. Retro toy lines back then would have only been a cardboard backing and then the blister card bubble in front of it. As a kid, you would just be ripping it open anyways and throwing away the packaging. Now, I had already done that with The Simpsons, threw away the packaging, recycled the packaging. Definitely not going to be doing that when it comes to the Return of the Living Dead. I feel the packaging, reminiscent, of course, of the original 1985 poster, is too good to be thrown away. So shortly after this review, these guys will be put back into their bubbles, and I'll be hanging them on the wall. I did, I think, a little bit better of a job of cutting Suicide's packaging. Trash, I got a little rough when it came to the bottom of her bubble, so I'm going to probably be a little bit more careful. They seem to be holding the figures fine, and actually in between takes, I just tried to put them back in their bubbles and back into their packaging, and it seems to be that they're going to be able to be fine. I certainly would recommend, if you guys are looking to try to save the packaging on these, only cut the sides and only cut the bottom. If you cut from the top, it means that the bubble may likely swing forward, and that's not going to look good at all. If you really do want to make them look as they're pristine and never been opened, from the sides and along the bottom. A little bit of advice there. Also, as well, if you guys are interested, these are currently available. They're sold separately. So if in order to get, say, for example, Trash and Suicide as a pair, you will have to buy them as separate items. Ideally, it would have been great if they could have packaged them together like they would have been in the poster. I don't mind the fact, like, reaction figures as a whole are only about $19.99, about a little $20 or so when you're buying them online. But what do you guys think of the Return of the Living Dead 1985 zombies? Is this something you guys could see yourselves picking up? Let me know down below in the comments section. A big thank you once again to the folks over at Super7 that did take the time and provide the samples we could have a look at here. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing during the month of Spottober, rest assured though, there will be more coming your way. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and you're turning on the bell notification. And of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.